True believers, and welcome to No, that's DC, not Marvel. Trying to channel Stan Lee there. Hey, welcome. First of all, 3 miles down. Thank you for joining us in chat before the pre-roll even finished. You win. For the rest of everybody, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Lawfully Chaotic, Season 2, Episode 7. I am Brian Weiss of RPG&Co, and with me, as always, are Sharon, the wonderful Barrybot. I'm sorry, the fabulous Barrybot. I've coined that, by the way. And Jason, the storyteller from TTRPG Academy.
This is my signal for I'm in trouble.
It's like the flag upside down. Tonight we're going to be talking about. That's all. The highlight of your Thursday. That is awesome. Really,
that's
really
so sad.
Sweet.
So sad.
So sad.
And I can say that because I know he's one of my players. So.
Tonight we are going to be talking about superheroes and how they kind of correlate to our favorite role-playing games. Like what heroes would be what villains, vice versa. What villains would be what D&D. Did I say what heroes would be what villains? No, that's wrong. What heroes would be what classes?
Well, I don't know. I think you bring up a good point. I mean, the narrative of heroes potentially becoming villains.
Yeah, true. True.
With the popularity of Loki, I find that type of anti-hero very fun in the whole like superhero mantra.
Very true. Well, they've done the MCU just
We'll just put some subtitles at the bottom.
Cher, you promised me he'd get his Percocet order. I'm a little concerned.
I was going to say the MCU has done a really good job of, following the traditional comic book style of this guy's bad, now he's good. This guy used to be good, now he's bad, and then he's good again, and yada yada yada. So yeah. Anyway, any announcements before we start, Sharon?
Well, the Grainy Lands campaign resumes this Saturday over at the TTRPG channel and also at the Lawfully Chaotic channel from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time. I play Mira as a druid Kalistar, and I am reporting live from the Batcave, in case y'all didn't know this.
Awesome. I love it. Mm-hmm. From the wonderful animated Batman series.
Yes.
I know. I love that one. I was an adult when it came out, but I didn't care. It was beautiful.
So fun fact.
The artwork.
Fun fact about the artwork.
Fun fact about the artwork. When I was still messing with my rotoscope, I loved to ink on color cellophane plastic stuff.
That'd be funny if anyone here other than me knew what a rotoscope is.
What made a comeback in Amazon Prime? There was a new animation that came out using it, which
But the fun fact about the art from the Batman animated series is traditionally, and almost all cartoons, animated series, when they are drawn, are on white backgrounds, white cells, and then inked that way. Batman was done on black cells, which gave it its wonderfully rich and shadowy kind of feel, and it won a lot of awards for that. And that simple fact was why.
See, I got an eye for detail. That's why I got it.
You do. You did.
She just thought it was fucking cool. That's why.
Jason, Jason, what about you?
Yeah, my life's getting busy, so I'm opening up an Etsy store called Digital Props Design.
Nice.
It will be imagery in 16:9 and 3:2, designed specifically for online players and online DMs. It's a much more cost-efficient way to get digital props that you might need for your online games: cities, towns, landscape, background. I'm going to do homebrew. I'm going to do homebrew neutral digital props and other things. I'm also opening up 5 new pay-to-play tables that will be 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday. Those are going to officially publish in 2 weeks over at the RPG Club /D&D Club. So go check them out for details coming up on that.
Sweet.
Oh, and I finally started moving into Studio 2.0.
Double sweet.
Whoa.
Hey, if you want to sell that digital stuff on RPG and Company too, let me know.
Yeah, I will. We'll talk.
We'll work
Yeah,
out a
I
deal.
do.
I have very favorable commission.
And
They're
I'm
only
doing
95%.
and I'm doing it in a way to make it very affordable because it's so expensive to be an online storyteller. So my goal is $2 images. Just make it affordable, make it easy to use, keep them in
Awesome.
2 different aspect ratios so you can use them nicely in your digital space or use them in your publication if you want to. Open licensing through the commercial licensing I have through the source of the artwork. So, it's all good.
Cool. Awesome.
What about you, Brian?
Yeah, Brad, what you got going now?
I got nothing new as of yet. I'm working on getting this module, this campaign. Oh, you haven't seen anything yet, my friend. No, I'm just working on getting this campaign up and ready. Interesting fact is I had a session because I've mentioned how I am using my Monday night or every other Monday night group to kind of help me write this campaign.
That's right.
Their decisions are helping me write this. And there was a major reveal last session of what is actually going on in this story. They have been kind of in the dark following leads, and it was a major reveal. And I'm wondering now. I have a lot of thinking to do because I'm wondering if it was like too drastic of a jump for where they are in the campaign. So,
Chat, you're so funny.
But that's it. No, enough of that shit. Let's talk superheroes because I'm putting everybody to sleep, including my damn self.
I think a really good future show we could talk about after tonight is exposition.
Yeah.
Exposition in games and the balance of lore and mythos as your players move through games.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a real fun topic because it's a difficult one to handle.
It is. The pace at which you divulge information to keep the party engaged, but yet still keep it mysterious. It's a balancing act.
Yeah,
and I may have knocked down the Jenga tower on Monday. Got a little bit of thinking to do on that one. Sharon, what do we got tonight in terms of superheroes?
Well, hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Lawfully Chaotic. Tonight we are going to be talking about superhero comic book themed TTRPGs. We actually have a pretty substantial list to go through tonight, but I wanted to have a nice introduction via Brian to tell us more about Champions and the Marvel Universe.
So I think, so I dug out my old Champions book. So I think it's
the book?
Yep, that's the book.
That's so cool.
So this was part of Hero Games by Iron Crown Enterprises, ICE, and they are also the team that brought us Middle Earth role playing system. But Hero System was another. It was like GURPS. Where GURPS came out, I think GURPS came out first, but as we talked last time, it was very bland, and I don't think it really caught on because there was just no background given at all. Hero System came out after that, and there was Fantasy Hero, and then there's Champions, which is all a Hero System game also. Yep, there's GURPS. So Champions gave a little bit more background. They had fantasy background, they had the hero background, but it was all the same system. So I think it's safe to say that Champions and Marvel Superheroes, which is another game, and I know I still have that stuff, but I could not find where it was. I think the two of those. Yeah, Gary, you may be right. They may have morphed Champions into Hero System. Oh my gosh, I remember that.
Turtles?
That I never had, but I do remember that. But I think it's safe to say that Champions and Marvel Superheroes were probably the most popular of the superhero genre playing games. Yes, I do, Jeff. Dibs. Just in case I can't find mine, I will take it off your hands. So Champions was Champions was a very I'm going to be honest, I don't remember the system, the mechanics at all.
Right.
So I'm not going to talk too much about that, other than, again, it was, let's take a agnostic set of rules, but let's give a little bit of background and introduce a new theme on top of that. Marvel Superheroes, and again, I wish I had it, but Marvel Superheroes was really interesting. It was a very simple set of mechanics, but it seemed to work, at least long enough to keep us interested for a couple of years. And it was all based, if I remember, it was all based on you kind of, in correlation to D&D, you kind of picked race and class. Race being, were you a mutant? Were you an altered human? Were you an alien? Were you a techno type guy? And then, yeah, well, Superman is an alien.
Yeah, technically.
Technically,
so you chose like what kind of hero you were and what your background was. Like Peter Parker was altered human. Okay, Wolverine is a mutant. Superman.
Right.
I think they may have.
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah,
They did.
Yeah.
And then they had a pretty simple system for like strength. Yeah, it was. That's true. It was more fun to build characters in that than it was to play. But the mechanics were good enough, again, to keep it going for a while. They didn't hold up as well as a lot of other games, but it also had a range of of powers. That was the most fun thing, is just because it was utilizing such a well-known piece of pop culture. I mean, we all knew. Thank you. Yes, fighting, agility, strength, endurance, reason, intuition, and psyche, and I believe it's a 1 to 100 scale by tens or something.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But the coolest thing is because everybody knew all the heroes, it was fun to like compare, like, oh, Spider-Man has like he's got an 80 strength versus Superman, who's got 100. So Spider-Man's pretty strong. So it was fun. It was fun. It was fun just to be able to slot our well-known favorite superheroes.
Yeah, by the stats.
Role-playing game mechanism. So that was really cool. That was the coolest thing about it.
And I think it was interesting to take an unlimited mythos and then apply limits. I always thought that was weird. Like, as you took the idea of Superman and put him into the stat block system within Champions and eventually some of the other hero games that came out, the mythos of Superman is that he can do anything. He only has really one weakness.
Yeah.
But yet when you
gotta
transpose those, it's like, wow, now you give it limits, and it's just kind of weird.
And Jeff has a good point. It's so funny because that is the actually, now that you mention that is the one thing that I took away from that game after all the years, is how strong Spider-Man was. For some crazy reason. And yeah, you realize like, wow, Spider-Man's a lot stronger than I thought. But then the heroes, like you said, Jason, like, well, obviously it was Marvel, but using as an example, Superman, for instance,
right,
was not actually Superman because you had to put him in that container. So
yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of the background on the two.
Yeah, I would think that Superman and like the other like even like Wonder Woman, I feel like would be OP in a TTRPG.
Well, I think that's kind of why DC has had such trouble adapting to the screen. I mean, other than how many Superman movies have there been, and other than maybe one or two, it's so fucking hard to do Superman because it's just, like you said, it's limitless. And a lot of DC heroes are like that. It makes it really hard to adapt to the screen, in my opinion.
The few times I played the game, I treated the core superheroes as deities. Like they were...
Oh, that's interesting.
They were omnipotent things that dropped in from time to time because they were off saving the universe. And it was up to the players to be the backfiller, the second bench folk that had to, protect the
Daredevil and
cities
Spider-Man and Punisher and
not even so much that. I mean, like Spider-Man is Apex, and I treated almost all the core very Apex. So to me, it was all about they really were. So for me, it was all about creating a theater of they were missing or they were off doing what the Apex superheroes do, and then we had to develop our own unique superheroes that would save the city, stop the villains, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, by the way, good point, Matt. If you are a fan of James Gunn and Guardians of the Galaxy, watch Peacemaker. Best piece of DC ever to me.
It's pretty funny. It is pretty funny.
Hilarious.
It almost approaches silly, but with style.
Yeah, but done well. Silly, but done well. So I think it's an interesting, since we do talk a lot about D&D here, I think it is. Yes, the intro dance is hilarious. I think so. Our idea last week was to kind of make a correlation to, Marvel heroes and how would they fit into D&D. So Sharon, where do you want to start with that?
Well, I actually have a handy dandy list that I've gone and put together for y'all. So
lay it on us.
Why don't we just roll out the red carpet for it?
And there's two that you found on here, Barry, that I love, that I just fell in love with. Go through the list and we'll talk about it.
Okay. All right. So first off of the list is mutants and masterminds. There's no limit to the style of the game for you to enjoy this system. It enables a point-buy system for character creation to split over powers and abilities. You can DM styles to have a villain of the week or an ongoing storyline. So think like, watching X-Men as a kid and then having like, the big bad for the week, like Colossus or something.
Yeah.
And then
you have current games.
This one is a D20 system.
Yeah, it's a game.
Current games.
And then what's really cool is that the supplemental games that come along with it, they have a very comic book theme. So there's mecha and manga. So think like if you want to play like a Sailor Moon style game, girls, or you could play Gundam Wing like as a TTRPG. Wouldn't that be cool?
That's awesome.
So, and then there's also Hero High, where basically you're, an angsty teen stepping into the role of a new superhero. And then the Golden Age of superheroes, which is where, basically like the X-Men or like, the DC universe of all the high caliber superheroes. So yeah, D20 system. So that's very familiar for like, D&D players to jump into.
Okay.
Yeah, and then next on the list is City of Mist.
I've never heard of this.
Superheroes got their powers from legendary figures throughout time, from ancient gods, dark fairy tales, and urban legends. That is the City of Mist. Your powers come from people, places, and things from stories. You must balance your mythos side, your power, to the mundane logo side, which is the human side. And it's very role play heavy, which I really like because I'm all about like storytelling. So like to play a character that's like probably from like a Cthulhu, storyline, or maybe you're Alice in Wonderland. Maybe you have some powers from that too. Maybe you see like you're seeing hallucinations of like the Cheshire Cat or something. And
and that's one of the ones I loved. I really fell in love with the idea of City of Mist. Mutants and Masterminds is good, but the thing I loved about City of Mist, you could really get into the idea that what you were evolving from like perished in some kind of apocalyptic event, or you could create like an absence backstory. And then suddenly you somehow you take on the beginnings of these like mysterious powers, almost like kind of that NBC show that was out for a while where people were discovering their powers when they didn't realize they had them.
Heroes.
But done with actual qualitative writing. You know, the idea that, you know, you're just a normal person, then all of a sudden during a year, you suddenly realize you could fly, or you have super strength, or you can see things or hear things. And then how that nurture versus nature takes over and what you kind of become. And then you discover your legend. Like, I love the idea. Save the cheerleader. Like, I love the idea of discovering your legend. I just think that's amazing. I think that's a brilliant way of thinking about your.
I love the freaking art.
The art's beautiful.
Really cool.
The art is so comic book. It is so beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah. Like, what if you're like a descendant of like Robin Hood or something? Or
yeah.
Or like you have like a backstory of like a descendant of Medusa, and maybe what?
You can petrify people, or yeah, right.
Cool.
Cast Medusa's Bane or something. Or
what's next?
Or okay. And then there's also Grandma's Hand. So this centers around Black superheroes that never got their spotlight in the 1930s to 1950s due to media reluctance to cover stories and other oppressors. You use your abilities to lift up the oppressed and fight against evil such as Nazis and mad scientists and bad cops. And it's limited magic use as well. So you have to kind of like gauge yourself, and it becomes a little bit more realistic to play. And it's actually a D6 system with dice pools.
I like this one too a lot. I like Grandma's Hand because I like the idea of a game introducing potential matter at the table that allows us to take some time to still be in our fantasy space while also kind of, you know, creating discourse around challenges, you know. And I think as long as the table gives consent and we all agree that that's what the table's here to do, I think as a neat little system like this that addresses that political oppression that is clearly historically documented, and then it gets to be played out in a fantasy space and it gets its voice. I love the idea of the system. I think it's genius, and I'm a huge fan of D6 dice pool. I don't know why. I think it's the inner Warhammer in me. You know, it's kind of familiar enough that I you know, the random number generator being affected by the pool of dice you can or can't use based on your choices that you're making are kind of a fun little random. Like, to me, if I were to like build a superhero game, I would make it dice pool because it just, you know, but I would probably vary the dice pools more than just D6. I'd use a little bit more of different styles for different purposes. But I just love the idea of you have a small dice pool to like overcharge your power. You know, you have another dice pool to like shield against somebody else's power, you know, and these dice pools can kind of help you augment your choices and, you know, create outcomes that the dice pool influence, but could still introduce chaos at the same time without it just being this traditional D20 system. I
agree. I'm really starting to recognize the value in the dice pool mechanic also, because you have your core scores, but you know, we talked about last week that in D&D, even in a D20 system, you know, there's not a lot of room for growth in there. So having a core set of attributes that you can supplement given certain circumstances really opens up opportunities for mechanics.
Well, and going back to Barry's list and then doing this list and really going back to what we were talking about last week and thinking about, this has really inspired me to start working on my Sherlock Holmes writing again, which is my Sherlock Holmes RPG I'm writing. The point systems we were talking about, and then now the pool dice and all these things we were talking about last time about some of the things we liked about Shadowrun, Dark Sun, and you know, and certain things really got me to thinking about the fact that, you know, there's really only two ways to influence difficulty in 5e. There's only two ways to influence it, and that is advantage, disadvantage,
and
or the DC number itself. Right. Other than that, there's not a lot of ways to really influence those outcomes.
Well, or modifiers. But again, you can only go so
but
far with
proficiencies
modifiers before you break the D20 system.
Yeah, but proficiencies and modifiers in any gaming mechanic are pre-known, and they're a pre-calculus of a potential outcome, right? In order for a narrative storyteller like me to offer open world opportunity, it's not always easy to say, okay, well, the DC on that is 35,
right?
And you have disadvantage. And they roll, they go, okay, I rolled a 19 and I have a plus 15.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, it's still not very hard for you. So
exactly right. I get it.
And that's why I really liked reading up on like Grandma's Hand, and I kind of like the next one a lot too. If you want to keep going there, Bear.
Yeah. So the next one up on our list is called Masks: A New Generation. Being a superhero for the first time can be rough. This RPG tells about a coming-of-age story with powers and all the fun and messy shenanigans you get involved as a teenage superhero. You play as a team of teens with powers fighting crime and also worrying about what to wear to prom. And what's interesting is that for this superhero system, you get to choose 10 different character archetypes.
I like this one a lot. I like this one a lot because I like how it's a generational subject matter. It also reminds me of the amazing animated series Invincible on Amazon.
Yes.
And it reminded me a lot about, it's not, I'm going through my own kind of conversations with my youngest daughter, who's 12, and she's discovering a lot for the first time, her own sexuality, her own understanding of the world. The idea that people are closeted and people aren't closeted, and she's really enjoying these discoveries. And I love her open-mindedness that she's approaching with it, which is, she's going from being a young girl to a young woman, and when I was reading up on Mask, it was like, this is like the perfect system to do a lot of that exploration as a young person, to really delve into the challenges of, we like the idea of thinking, what if we had these powers, what we would do with them. But as we get them, do the powers change us and we become someone else? Or, if I'm not even going through puberty yet, but yet I can fly and I can pick up cars. What does that mean to the, to how I'm behaving in the world, and I think there's a lot of LGBTQ, options in this game as well.
Yes.
A lot of safety there, a lot of fun for folks to kind of utilize this as a way to kind of test their own kind of thoughts that they have in their own head about what their views are and how that might affect them. Because, anything can be a superpower, and I just love the system. Yeah, it's powered by the Apocalypse system, which the Apocalypse system is growing on me. I'm
not familiar with that. Is that the?
I think. I think it's influencing a lot of the newer systems. I think number one, let's face it, it's got a cool ass name, so I think people like it. And I think people like to explore darker mechanics and more challenging mechanics.
It's a system of mechanics.
Yeah. The Apocalypse system is the actual mechanics that multiple games are being written towards to use for gameplay.
And who created that?
I forget, but I do. Torchseer brings up a good one. I do have a copy of the Cortex system, which is a very super narrative system. And I would agree with you, Torch, that it is a spiritual successor to GURPS. And it's also been written by a lot of former D&D people. So that first round of people that left D&D Beyond wrote Cortex. And I like it. I bought it the first day it came out, and I've been enjoying it. But once again, if I have 10 mechanic systems in my head, which one do I choose?
Right.
It gets harder. But to earlier point, Barry, what's the next one?
The next one is Marvel Multiverse RPG. You can play alongside your favorite iconic superheroes and villains in this RPG. It's currently in a playtest stage at this time, but it has a very interesting dice system. It's the 616 system. So it's 2 regular D6s and 1 very special D6.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot because as complex as the Star Wars dice are for the newer stuff and some of the older stuff, I kind of feel like having one specialized dice that's available for you to use kind of adds that little bit of excitement and sense of adventure back into dice rolling. I kind of like that idea of it. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of demi-plane. I'm not a fan of demi-plane. But a lot of the things that associate themselves with demi-plane, I'm okay with. But this is another one that I've been enjoying watching their gaming system because I'm trying to write a game system to use for the Sherlock Holmes RPG. And there's the Apocalypse system. There's these new D6 systems. There's the old pool dice system. I'm having a lot of fun exploring all these systems. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so that's the Marvel Multiverse RPG. The very last one on our list is actually my favorite. This is called Anyone Can Wear the Mask. It's 1 to 3 players. There's no GM. One person plays the hero with amazing powers set on doing good. Another player plays the city. They take on the role of the general populace or other heroes and describes places. Lastly, one person is the villain, ready to cause chaos and strike at the hero. You can play the game solo by using the Fortress of Solitude. Fortress of Solitude mode, where you take on all of the roles and journal your experience as the story plays out. This TTRPG relies on organic and improvised storytelling with a deck of cards.
Yeah, I like this one too. One of the things I liked about this was the narrative style of the hero, the city, the villain. I just fell in love with that idea. I thought it was amazing. The idea that the city and the reaction of the city has a voice. The innocent bystander, the person. Like, one of the things I think Marvel did interestingly with some of their narrative points has a lot to do with this game. If you're the Hulk and you defeat the bad guy, but you inadvertently help bring down a building in the process, and that building kills 12 people, what are you culpable for? Like, what does that narrative look like? And if one of those people survive that building and they go on to be a villain, did you just make your own villain because you thought you were being a hero? I love the way Marvel was toying a lot with that narrative. And I think this does a really fun job. This system, as always, giving people a solo option. The Marvel Ultimate Universe of the early years, right? Toying with the dark side of, heroic activity, and I think the Avengers series did some touch points with that with Tony Stark and coming to terms with a lot of people, have perished in their attempts to save people, and you have to come to terms with that. And I like that narrative within hero gaming and the overall idea of playing heroes, right? Because there's a notion, right? If you're a player or a villain, if you're playing a hero system, are you going to always be the hero? And what does that mean to be a hero? What does it mean to be an anti-hero? And I know that when we talked earlier, I was very kind of fixated on villains because I think villains challenge us. And when I saw the way this worked, the way this system worked, what I loved about it is if once that player chooses to be a villain, that's like their focus. Like their entire focus is, okay, how can I be like I know there's a lot of there's some consensus and discussion about Batman as a villain, right? There's a lot of thought points about that. But if you're a Rick and Morty fan, to me, the ultimate villain in that series is the car. Rick's car. Rick and Morty. Rick's car is the ultimate villain. She's inorganic. She's a computer. She's sentient. She does whatever she wants. She's manipulative, and she is like the perfect villain because she could do anything she wants, and she continuously gets away with it. And I don't know, villains just amaze me. I just find them, I hate to say it, I find them more interesting than heroes. They're just more interesting.
We talked about this briefly before we went live, and I said not only superhero villain, but I think one of the best villains in my mind, one of the top 3 villains of all time in Hollywood history is Thanos. Right? And
Yeah.
So here's a guy who's trying to destroy the universe, but when you look at him, so that he's clearly labeled a villain, but when you look at him, is what he's doing really evil? I mean, it could be argued that he is acting altruistically.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's so easy to empathize.
Yeah, exactly. You can empathize with him and the intricacies of his motivations. I thought they just did a fantastic job with Thanos.
I think one of the things they did well with Thanos is
Unbelievable, yeah.
I think one of the things with Thanos that I find interesting is their ability to take a very kind of normal trope and change it, because his person as a villain, he's very tropey, right? He's being a very extreme person who's trying to save the world from itself, or the universe from itself. You know, he believes what he believes, and that belief is, if I wipe out half the universe, the other half will have a better quality of life, and they will last longer and live longer. He truly believes that. I think that is derived from a lot of
that's a good one. 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's derived from some very modern culture, you know, like the idea of putting millions of people out of work to save, to make an eco change, right?
Yeah, a big part of that was Josh Brolin, part of Thanos.
Yeah, you know, so I think from a trope perspective, I was amazed at how they took something as common as that trope and made it very uniquely Thanos. And I think without Josh Brolin's approach, I don't think it could have been pulled off. I really don't think it would have worked.
Yeah. So one thing I want to do, I know you have a couple things on your list, Sharon, in terms of villains, and what big bad evil guys they would be. I also want us to pick our favorite hero, either Marvel or DC or anything, and then correlate that to what that would or figure out what that would be in correlation in D&D. Like what class, or would it be a deity or something like that? And chat, you too. I mean,
chat, join in.
So my favorite superhero, I think, I've got a lot that I like, but one of my favorite, probably my favorite superhero has Iron Fist is yours. I didn't know that. Iron Fist is dumb. Sorry, Jeff. I will say that the series and Defenders did not do that character justice. It was horrible. Unfortunately, you will be
injured soon.
So my favorite hero of all time is Moon Knight.
Ooh, why Moon Knight?
I love I've always been attracted to, like the mysterious hooded cloaked guy, who runs around through the night.
Is Brian start? Who's your favorite hero?
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight.
I know you're talking about the comics. Shut the fuck up.
That's the most boring hero I've ever seen.
Okay, did you watch the newest series?
Yeah, I did, and I fell asleep every time.
Okay, well, you apparently have no taste whatsoever, and this was supposed to be a safe place, and now I feel attacked and oppressed.
You oppressor!
No, I thought the way they handled his character and his personality disorder was just freaking amazing. And I
like the idea of it. I did like the idea.
I like that type of character, not not overly powerful, but with enough kind of mysterious powers, running around through the night. Daredevil is another awesome one, but I've always loved Moon Knight. So as a D&D class,
That's like a paladin or cleric, right?
I was thinking paladin, but maybe like rogue paladin, maybe multi-class.
Yeah,
or like
I love that idea. A rogue paladin sounds awesome,
right?
Yeah, I like that idea.
Ooh, smite would be great.
Wouldn't it be awesome?
Right?
Sneak attack with smite.
Sneak attack with smite. That'd be
Hawkeye.
just wicked kick-ass.
No money, just skill. Hawkeye, yeah. Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Ross, and yes, they were definitely.
You know what? Nicholas
Paladin of
Cage,
Shar,
he actually took his last name from Luke Cage.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Daredevil's another good one. I think that's kind of what I was thinking too, was paladin.
What's your favorite hero, Barry?
I think if I were to choose, I would go with Nightcrawler.
Oh, good one.
Oh, that's so anti-hero. I love that.
Yeah.
And I love the Vlad accent, right?
Oh, yes.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
And Nightcrawler is not an anti-hero.
Oh, he most certainly is. He's spooky as fuck.
That doesn't
He
make him an
scares children to
anti-hero.
death. He walks into a children's hospital and everyone dies. That's an anti-hero. He is terrifying.
No, you're just prejudiced of weird-looking people.
I'm not prejudiced of
I would not consider Nightcrawler an anti-hero in any way.
And Beast. Maybe I just like blue people, but
I would consider Spawn an anti-hero.
But yeah, I like Beast as well.
Or Deadpool an anti-hero. I would not consider.
Well, what do you like about Nightcrawler though?
Well, Nightcrawler, because of like his aesthetic and also because he has like the ability to like bamf in and out of places. So like I was thinking he would be like kind of like a tiefling and
like Fey touched?
Yeah.
Like a tiefling Fey touched? Yeah.
Arcane trickster mixed with rogue.
Thank you, Torch.
Man, you guys have a weird interpretation of anti-hero.
No, you do.
Well, that's probably true.
An anti-hero is not somebody who looks weird. An anti-hero is somebody who has questionable methods to achieve their motives, which are generally good, but
you just described 99% of everything.
I do like Nightcrawler. A tiefling, that definitely. What
would Beast be though? Beast would be like a barbarian, right?
Probably, yeah. Orc barbarian.
Beast?
Well, Wolverine's not an anti-hero. He's just an asshole. There's a difference right there.
See, this is generating a lot of conversation here because you brought up anti-hero.
I'm all about the villains,
probably.
I'm all about the BBEDs.
The first anti-hero that comes to my mind is probably my second favorite character of all time, which is Spawn. Spawn is an anti-hero.
I still feel like Spawn just is like a badass villain.
How the fuck? What? Oh, villain.
He feels like a villain to me who doesn't know how to be a villain.
Deathstroke. There you go.
Yes.
Well, Deathstroke's just a badass because
Punisher. There you go.
Yeah. Well, Punisher would definitely be a barbarian. I could see the Punisher
is the anti-hero. Yeah.
So one of the things I love to toy with is I really want one of the players to be a ranged barbarian.
Ooh.
I've thought about coming up with a subclass for that where you can, you have a rage barbarian at range.
That would be cool. A ranged barbarian. Would it be bow or would it be like throwing axes?
I don't know. I think it would like a dex bar, like a pure dex barbarian that when they rage, all of their rage ability is in their like ranged like.
Wait a minute,
mechanics.
Didn't I play that in your Christmas one shot?
Maybe I don't remember.
I think he was a dex-based barbarian, and it sucked balls.
Yeah, but I think it was still based on. I think it was a multi-class you came up with.
No, I didn't multi-class.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Not with that guy. I think it was a dex-based barbarian.
Yes, I would agree. Deadpool is definitely a textbook anti-hero.
Yeah. Yes.
That to me is very accurate. Absolutely.
Teleport as a cantrip. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like I feel like
that brings up a really good point.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm serious. In D&D, what if you had magic classes that had an extremely limited spell list of only like a handful of spells, but you cast them as cantrips all the time?
Isn't that basically what a sorcerer is? Or a
No.
warlock? I thought they only
No.
get like 2 spells, like laser beams,
No,
and
no,
they
no,
talk
no,
to their
no.
evil packs.
Well, Warlock has very limited spell slots because they get them back in a short rest. I'm talking about a very short list of spells that you can learn, period.
Well, I mean, that would be almost like multi-classing. Like, what if you multi-classed
To a
as a
degree,
multi-level
but again,
caster?
if you were a caster that could only cast 3 different spells, but you could cast them all as cantrips.
Oh,
Again,
so you mean be Superman? I mean, he can only do 3 things: fly, laser beams,
I'm
and
not talking about game-breaking spells. I'm not talking about like fucking wish and power word kill, dumbass. I'm talking about like, you know, like a teleport, for instance, or
yeah.
and shield, and like chromatic orb or something. So you could cast those as cantrips. Might be too powerful, but.
Well, let's talk about our favorite villains. Bear, you lead us off on this one. What's your favorite villain?
Ace, you didn't say your favorite hero.
I don't like any heroes, to be honest with you. They're boring. Marvel heroes are vanilla ice cream with different kinds of sprinkles on top. There's nothing interesting about them at all.
There you go.
So I don't really have like a favorite hero. I never really have. I've always been super into villains. I've always thought,
what, Jason? You are an anti-hero.
That's probably true. But yeah, I've always I've loved the DC villains and I've hated the Marvel villains because there's never really a lot of Marvel villains. There's only 1 or 2 good Marvel villains, but there's a lot of fun DC villains.
That's a good one. I didn't think of him at all.
Bucky.
Winter Soldier, yeah. Well, yeah. But that's interesting though. I don't really think of him as the Winter Soldier anymore. I think of him as Bucky now. Like, I feel like he's transcended from the Winter Soldier and he's become Bucky the hero a little bit, with his kick-ass arm and some of the superpowers left over from being the Winter Soldier. But, being wicked is what made him a badass before. I mean, he kicked everybody's ass. He kicked Captain America's ass, and it just... Like I said, villains are just more fun. They're more interesting for me.
Yeah, but Vision could have sawed him in half with his fucking brain ray.
Yeah, but Vision, is the perfect example of a,
if you say anti-hero, I'm gonna punch you.
No, Vision's a perfect example of just really bad programming. He's like a Windows 3.11. He couldn't beat Thanos. He was supposed to be
MS-DOS, Magneto.
That was going to be my guy.
I think, yeah.
Thank you, Andrew. Much appreciated.
Oh, Punisher and Magneto, now that I think about it, probably are the quintessential anti-heroes of all time.
But Magneto became boring when he was a hero. He was a great villain. He was the perfect villain.
He was a better villain, yes.
Yeah, he was a perfect villain. I became more interested in...
what about Silver Surfer? I didn't say
sorry,
I liked him.
my narcolepsy was kicking in. Sorry,
I didn't say I liked him.
Yeah, but you mentioned.
Okay, so let's talk about villains.
Wait.
Okay, wait.
What about that? He's kind of an anti-hero. He's from Watchmen, the blue guy.
Oh, Dr. Manhattan.
Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah. I don't know if he's an anti-hero. He is just
apathetic.
Apathetic.
Kind of, yeah.
Very well hung.
He's just he's pragmatic, not apathetic. He's 100% pragmatic.
Yeah. Well, I think the entire idea of the Watchmen is very unique. Like, I feel like the Watchmen
kind of an anti-hero.
Well,
yeah, pretty much.
I feel like the Watchmen itself, the whole idea of the universe of the Watchmen felt very uniquely, like, none of them felt like heroes to me. None of them really felt like villains to me, and it just was a very interesting storytelling of the idea of supers, and the way
perspective.
Yeah. And I like the way they transcended time.
Yeah.
They went from the 20s to the 30s to the 50s to, and I think I think the comedian is one of my favorite villains.
Yes.
He is a villain in sheep's clothing. He is absolutely a hardcore villain. And I just love the way that played out for his character. It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, what about Peacemaker? He's another anti-hero.
Yeah. But once again, he was more interesting to me when he was a hardcore villain in Suicide Squad. You know, when he became a true villain in Suicide Squad.
You're just fucking twisted. What's your problem?
But they're more interesting because they're going to lose.
Look, defending
watching
the peace is so important to me. I don't care how many women and children I have to kill to do it.
But if you think about it, you wouldn't be a hero without a villain.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the nature of the story, the trope,
There's
right?
no light without dark.
Exactly.
It's like the Joker and Batman.
Well, I mean, they're secret lovers. Let's be serious here. I mean, those two.
Neither of them can live without each other.
As far as I'm concerned, the best representation of Batman and Joker was the Lego Movie. That did the most amazing representation of their relationship that I've ever seen. And if you ever watch that, but I don't
love with the fucking batarangs.
But once again,
whap, ding, first try.
If you watch the new series with Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, I think it's on either HBO Max or Amazon. I forget which one they're on. But they have a new reanimated series. And they've made them good people kind of now. And I've lost interest because they were more fun to me when they were villains. I will always love Harley. She is always my secret alter ego. I would love to be just super smart and fearless. And
Jeff, I think she's kind of they've watered her down too much.
Who? Harley?
Harley, yeah.
Yeah, she's a great villain, and I think to a certain point when Leto
Margot Robbie does a fantastic job, but I don't really like what they've done with her. She's now just kind of dumb.
Well, I think they just took the fun of her villainy away from her. Like when her villain essence was so derived from the Joker, that those two are such powerful villains together because they both love and despise each other. And you watch how their villainy comes out of that, I had a hard time with Victor Fries as a villain. I enjoyed his character.
Wait,
but
it was Freeze?
Dr. Freeze.
Oh,
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
He was so anchored in the death of his wife that it was hard to ever really believe he was a villain. I haven't watched the new Swamp Thing series. I need to, because that's one of my other favorites. I love the Swamp Thing. I always thought that was a great story.
Gary, easiest way to remember: Swamp Thing is plants with a guy around it. Man Thing is guy with plants around him.
Two-Face is a good one. Yeah.
Two-Face.
Yeah, Two-Face is a good one because they used to be good.
This is. I love how where this has gone. This has just turned into a discussion of fuck role-playing games, and it's now hero versus villain. I love this.
But to a certain degree, it's very transcendent too, right? Because our notion of heroic fantasy play and villain fantasy play, right?
Okay,
the idea of, who do we think are heroes in D&D and who do we think are villains in D&D, right? We obviously have a very powerful villain in Vecna and the very nature, the creation of the Briarwoods, the creation of the Chroma Conclave, right? These villains exist so that players can try to be heroic.
Okay, let's
in their own kind of way.
Let's reverse this. Okay, I'm going to put this out for both you guys and chat. All right, I'm going to take all the classics. Beholder, give me a hero or a villain that would be a Beholder. I got one of mine recently.
Oh, that's a good one. Well, it's interesting you bring that up because to me, Xanathar is my fun Beholder villain I like to play. But sometimes he gets to be a hero.
That's MODOK.
MODOK, I would agree. MODOK would be a good one for that. Definitely.
Yeah. Batman.
Yeah, Xanathar is very Batman-esque in the Forgotten Realms universe. There's a bit of, he's a very rich guild master. He tries to do everything to benefit himself, and he's a little bit crazy. He believes his goldfish is his link to the world, and as long as this goldfish is alive, Xanathar remains alive. So he believes he's capable of being immortal. So
look on Xanathar's guide. You know that, Sharon, the goldfish He's looking at the goldfish.
Yeah, it's his
Oh my
anchor.
God.
Okay.
So his,
Mind
that's a good
Flayer.
one. A mind flare, Jean from Mutants,
Yeah, Dark Phoenix.
or
yes.
Xavier, Dark Phoenix or Xavier
Interesting.
from Mutants.
Okay.
I think would be a great one for mind flare.
That's
Doctor
good.
Strange would be another good one. Yeah,
That's-
Shungun is right. Yeah,
Actually, I would say Doctor Strange is more like Vecna.
yeah, he's kind of got that vibe.
I can
Does
see
have a
that.
bit of a Vecna vibe.
Or maybe Doctor Doom could be Vecna,
Yeah.
potentially.
Oh man.
What's
Wouldn't
another one,
Dr.
Bri?
Octopus be
Okay.
kind of like
Dr. Fate. Could be.
Mm.
How about
Not a lot of named.
I know.
Um,
Okay, a mimic.
That's what's his name from the Fantastic Four?
Oh
Reed Richards.
Yeah, that's Reed Richards.
yeah.
Yeah, Doom Supreme, man. That's a villain. Ooh, Tiamat.
The mimic Mystique. That's good. There you go.
Oh, Mystique is a good one.
Yeah,
Good
that's
one.
true.
Tiamat.
Would be a good one for Tiamat. Yeah, that's
What
a
do you
tough
think,
one
Brian.
because
I'm trying to think. I can't come up with anything. Thanos.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Because
maybe.
the mythos around Tiamat is she's always trying to reshape the world for dragons.
Yeah, could be.
and I think that would
Well,
probably
plus
work.
there's the chromatic aspect with the
Uh-huh.
stones.
Yeah,
Nice.
Good
Yeah.
one, Gary. Mephisto. That's a good
Mephisto.
one.
Yeah, that would work. Well, it's funny because up until Critical Role introduced some really fun villains
Wolf.
in their series.
Lolf.
Yeah.
So who would she
Ooh.
Raven.
Ooh.
be? And
From
don't say
Teen
Black
Titans.
Widow for the obvious reason. Ooh, Hela. Excellent.
Yeah, Hela would be a good one.
Nice.
But see, once again, Marvel had an opportunity to introduce a great villain.
Oh yeah,
At-
Demogorgon.
I
Classic.
loved
Love it.
Hela as a villain. I thought she was an amazing incarnation of the idea of families going the wrong way and
Mhm.
families being pulled apart by the expectations of father and mother. A great
Evil
story.
lady for Spider-Man. Aunt May.
Not Aunt May.
Yeah, Kate Blanchett is solid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. Anything she touches is.
she's amazing.
Madam.
May.
I didn't know Aunt May was evil.
Well, she would make the perfect
so
bad.
who
She knows
would be-
all the secrets.
Who would a Demogorgon be?
Mhm.
That's a good one. I'm still trying to figure out how I can slip Lex Luthor into this conversation. Because he's one of my
Was that the
favorite
villain
villains.
we're gonna choose?
That's my favorite villain, is Lex Luthor.
I still like Gene Hackman's way better than
Eh,
Jesse Eisenberg. Eigenberg.
yeah,
Spoiler
I don't know.
alert.
Right? Aunt May rips her face off.
Yeah, like she'd be a great big bad, right? Because she knows all the secrets. Everyone thinks
Kanan.
she's just this passive kind of person.
That's a
She'd
good
be a
one.
great one. Yeah, Mordekainen and Lex Luthor. That's a good compare. I like that one.
Man, you guys are really good tonight.
Yeah, you guys are beating our pants off, and we were talking about this for a week.
Walter White, anti-hero. That's a good one. But he's not
Ooh.
really a superhero, though.
Well, I don't know if you know all the secrets.
He's
Aren't you
super
kind of
drugged up.
super?
Well, and you kind of because once everyone is super, no one is super. That's true.
He's
I
a
mean, you
chemist.
could compare him to Batman or Tony Stark in a way.
Because I mean, technically, Tony Stark's superpower is his genius.
Yeah.
True.
You
And
know,
money.
He's an artificer.
Well,
Well-
that comes from his genius. You're right.
yeah.
Yeah, an artificer. There you
Yeah,
go.
he's a true artificer to me.
By the
I
way,
love that.
side note, that casting may be the best casting choice in the history of Hollywood.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
mean,
think
he fucking is Tony Stark to the
Yeah.
point where when I talk about him outside of the movie, my mind has to do a split second, and remember his actual name is Robert Downey Jr. and not Tony Stark.
Well, and I think what's amazing about the journey that Robert Downey Jr. was on, his life journey, and still was redeemable enough to make this incredible presence of a character across this broad MC universe.
Yes, very big.
And then wrap it up with his death, and it was just such, to me, that was the perfect hero arc.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, to our earlier point, he was the perfect hero arc, and I feel like Thanos was the perfect villain arc. And at the end, when those two arcs collided in Endgame, that is the eventual conclusion of all heroes and villains.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be heroic without a villain, and you can't be villainous without a hero. And I just think those arcs, when they collided, I mean, there are sometimes I go to my Disney subscription and I just watch the last 20 minutes of Endgame, because it's just such an amazing 20-minute finish. And you start with Captain America, Avengers, and then boom, and you have this amazing 20-minute long superheroes versus villains colliding for 20 solid minutes. And it's just a phenomenal story.
Yeah, Jeff brings up a good point. We were talking on our Slack channel. That is one of my favorite movies of all time. Favorite Pixar movie ever is The Incredibles.
Yeah.
The feel of that they got, the old like James Bond.
So true, Torch.
Feel like, oh my gosh, it was fantastic. It was incredible, really.
Torch, now I'm jealous.
You're shitting me.
By the way, Torch does some amazing work. She helped do our intro for Grainlands, and it's pretty cool.
That is awesome. He worked on that movie. It is fantastic.
She did the intro, and I think Mike and her got together and did music together. And it, as a storyteller of a narrative type of storyteller that I am, having your players do a lot of creativity for the sake of the game is just so amazing. Gives me such warm fuzzies when players do that.
Now, to Jeff's point, now that story arc is over, it kind of, and I kind of have a problem with the multiverse.
Rant cam.
They ruined Marvel. God, they fucking killed the good guys and the good bad guys, and now that. No, I mean, really, I think the multiverse it's kind of like when you do time travel in movies. It's a fucking cop-out. It doesn't work if you don't do it well. There are movies that have done it very well. Marvel was one of them. But you open up the multiverse, and it's just, it's in my opinion, it can be a crutch for lazy writing, and I'm starting to see that. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I don't know. I think it seems that Marvel MCU right now, I don't want to say it jumped the shark. I don't believe that, but I do think.
I love Looper. Looper is an amazing movie.
That wasn't bad. 12 Monkeys was unfucking believable.
That was a good one too.
But I think Marvel is I don't know. I don't know if they're starting to get a little bit lazy, if they're running out of ideas, if they're resting on their laurels. And I'm hoping that it's not the beginning of a continuing trend. But I think but Jeff brought up a very good point, because now that Iron Man and Thanos are gone, I mean, that was the driving force between the entire MCU.
What I think was interesting was the unique way that Disney put together these short series with heroes. The thing they did with the Red Witch. What I found very disappointing, and why I've kind of soured on the Marvel universe a bit, is the very poor way that the Doctor Strange arc was treated. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Pissed off female arc was lost on me. That's not 1955 anymore, folks.
Well, not only that, but Doctor Strange himself, he's like, oh, you can't. In a nutshell, it was you can't fuck with the timeline and all this shit. And then Spider-Man No Way Home comes along and he's like, oh, let's fuck with the timeline. It's like you open up that multiverse door, and like I said, it's an excuse for shitty writing sometimes.
But the struggle I had with the narrative of that Doctor Strange film was the hysterical woman.
Yeah, no,
That
I get
really,
that.
I
I
hated
get
that.
You're right. Yeah,
And I think it
I'm
speaks
not
to your,
arguing that point with you.
no, but I think it
I
speaks
agree.
to your main point. I think they're rudderless right now. They're looking
Yeah.
for an arc that's going to make sense. And I think the Kang arc, if they build it properly, could be a lot of fun.
Did you see Quantumania?
No, not yet.
Okay, I did, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. All I'm going to say is, as a movie, because Marvel still makes, for the most part, quality movies.
3
As they
Miles Down, you are so dead on. They built that amazing
Yeah.
series and then put out that piece of shit movie and just made the series
Yeah.
like, oh God, that. All right, my rant cam.
You want to borrow? You want to borrow my rant?
Yeah,
cam?
your rant cam.
Yeah, Gary's
right.
right.
They don't have an arc.
What was I?
They don't have it.
So Quantumania. Okay. Arguably a version of the multiverse because it's the quantum universe, so it's all built in there. All I will say is, as a movie, period. I mean, I would say it was like a 7. It was entertaining. Okay. As a Marvel movie, I'd give it about a 4.5. Because it's already, I could see in that already, like, oh, we're in the quantum world. We could do anything the fuck we want. And
right.
Just kind of, I personally did not like Kang at all. I thought he was.
See, I thought he was great in Loki.
Tropey. I thought he was very tropey. And I don't think that.
Well,
really?
I'm wondering, so Cher, I have a question for you. Do you see a problem between how well the series are doing as TV series versus them transcending over to a movie? Because I thought Kang was great in Loki.
I think the transcendence. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you, Sharon. I think the transcendence goes the other way, from movie to TV show. I think they can do more with the TV series than they can.
Well,
with movies.
That's kind of what I was wondering. Is that I wonder if the TV series is better.
I think so.
Well, cover your ears, everyone. I haven't seen WandaVision, and I haven't really got caught up with the Loki movies.
Oh,
so
wow.
I don't really have
the series.
The
series, because I think you would love WandaVision. I think you would love it.
Yeah.
But I think with the TV show, you're not beholden to traditional box office. Okay. I know you still are in a way, but I think it's more. Anyway, I don't want to get into that, but I think there's less impetus to have a smash opening weekend type thing. I think there's more care that can be taken with the story. You have longer to tell the story. If it takes 4 hours, you don't have to cut it down because people aren't going to sit through 4 hours in a movie theater, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Build up. And one thing that Marvel generally has done exceptionally well is backstory and build up, because until Iron Man came out and the MCU started, most superhero movies and or TV shows made the grave mistake of speeding through origin story in an episode or two, or in the first 15 minutes of the movie, and it's just unbelievable and stupid. One thing Marvel has done is stretch that out, into either a whole movie lead up or half of a season, and I forgot where I was going with that point. But they've done that really well. What were we talking about right before this? There was a point I was trying to make. So
is like a
the TV show being able to do that in the TV shows better than in the theater. Sorry, Sharon, go ahead.
No, so would you prefer a superhero television series over blockbuster hits?
Yes.
Given
the quality that Disney's been putting out, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, I know it's not in the superhero genre, but if you look at the success of the Andor series versus the fact that we haven't seen a Star Wars movie come out for a while, and if you look at the successes of the Disney series in general, I'm not a huge fan of this new kind of person that the entertainment's created, which is a showrunner. I think the difference between a showrunner and those that make movies is where the collision is happening. When we get really good showrunners and they deliver really fun things like the Peacemaker, WandaVision, Loki, and they start delivering really quality TV shows, and then they hand over that content to a very lackluster Hollywood right now. Hollywood is very not good right now. They're not doing a lot of interesting things.
I would totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Ant-Man would have been better. Quantumania
as a series, I think it would have been an amazing series.
And that's interesting. You bring that up, both Jason and Gary, about Andor. Obviously as a Star Wars fan, having grown up with that, again, that was a major part of my childhood, mythos, if you will.
Your childhood is definitely a myth.
Yes, it is. I mean, you ask any diehard Star Wars fan, they're going to say their favorite movie was Empire Strikes Back because it was the only one that fucking George Lucas didn't direct.
Yep.
I think right behind that is Rogue One, personally.
Oh, yeah.
I think, and I've had this argument with some people. Some people agree with me, some people don't. I think Andor was the best piece of Star Wars lore to have ever been brought to screen.
Really?
I would agree with that.
Yes,
I would agree with that.
Because it served up the entire reason for everything else. And I thought the slow pace of that and the build up and the realism and the ground level, how it affects your average citizen rather than your heroes, was fantastic.
And if you really go
and
back,
they could never ever have done that with movies. That could only work in a TV series.
What's really interesting about that is, last session we talked about mythos, and this one we're kind of in the superhero mythos, and the idea of heroes, anti-heroes, and everything. Everybody pretty much knows this by now, but Star Wars was based on 7 samurai. And the most interesting character in that movie was the village. The village of all the personalities and all the people suffering and all of them being, under the effects of the warlords and, the bad samurai versus the good samurai, right? The village itself in 7 Samurai, to me, was the main character, and everybody else was just kind of playing around it. And it was, if you haven't seen 7 Samurai, it is the most amazing black and white story of heroes and villains that I think has ever been done from a standpoint of a cross-cultural, cross-generational storytelling. I highly recommend, if you've never seen it, please go see it. It's an amazing movie. It really is good.
But like I said, Andor would have never, it could have only worked in a TV series and supported that mythos and that storyline. And it's easy to say, oh, well, an empire is an empire, and eventually every empire has a rebellion because it's an evil empire, yada, yada, yada. But it's still nice to be told why everybody hates them.
Another one that wasn't, I'm forgetting the name of it. Anybody watch that movie about the potential of the evil Superman? Red something. It was called Red. I can't remember what it was called, but it was about the kid being raised and he ends up becoming bad. Brightburn. Thank you. I couldn't remember the name of it. That was an amazing movie. It was amazing. It was so good. It was so good. And it just, everybody, I just don't think
in Russia. Wow.
I've been meaning to see that movie too.
Yeah, Brightburn is good. And the boys are good too.
I'm not a fan of The Boys. I will give it its merit in the whole hero anti-hero thing, but
I think.
What about Flashpoint Paradox?
Never heard of that.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
all the superheroes are actually evil.
Yeah.
In the timeline.
Oh,
that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Torch, I agree. After that season 3 opener, I was like, fuck this shit, I'm done.
And that's an interesting point about the idea of superheroes and villains. Like, is there a point that there's a little bit too much gratuity of certain things that make it very distracting?
Yes.
And I think both Invincibles and The Boys do it differently. One does it better and one does it worse.
Yeah.
Right. The humanistic and very hedonistic nature of The Boys versus the very kind of bloody outcome of Invincibles, or the Invincible series. Invincible is very graphic and very bloody, but they do it in a way that works. Whereas
I haven't watched the Invincibles.
I read all of the comics. It gets really good, guys.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
But it was a struggle to make it through 2 seasons, and season 3, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, it's super gratuitous by season 3. It was to the point where it was like, okay, we get it. Human nature is hedonistic, and if you give them superpowers, they remain hedonistic. We get it. So that browbeating by the 3rd season was even a little bit too much for me. It was like, okay, the superhero orgy scene was enough. I was like, this is, now you've gotten into territory that's just stupid. And
I didn't even make it that far. I didn't even make it that far. That first 3 minutes of that intro, I was like, bye. And I'm not disturbed by graphic shit, but when it's so gratuitous, I don't need that.
It could be rough. It could be rough. It could be rough. Well, we did it again, folks. We did it again. We did an hour and 17 minutes.
This is the story was good, but
there's no argument about the story. But you could tell that story without all the dick jokes. You could.
Oh, I mean, look at Peacemaker. That was crass, but it was
crass, but it's
funny and done really well.
Yeah.
I don't think, like you said, The Boys it was too gratuitous.
It was too often. It was like the joke was already gotten. You don't need to keep making that same joke to a certain degree.
Yeah.
They were beating a dead horse.
I think they did that in episode. In fact, that would have been funny if they had an episode where one of them was actually beating a dead horse.
Yeah, that's really what the point of that
Torrance,
show was.
you're dead on. That's exactly what that show does.
Yeah.
And it's almost to the point of like ridiculously. Like
SpongeBob ripped
SpongeBob ripped pants is a common problem. So true.
Really?
One last question.
Here we go.
Best and worst DC movie and Marvel movie.
Oh, geez. That's a tough one because it's generational. Are we talking modern terms?
Best Marvel movie? Generally modern terms. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's say MCU, and I know DC just started the DCEU, but for all intents and purposes, the modern, we'll say since like the 1989 Batman and on, okay, for DC. Yes, I will agree with Gary that for DC, all of them suck.
Except for Wonder Woman. I think Wonder Woman was actually very good.
Actually, that is true. I think best DC movie was the Chris Nolan Batmans were pretty good. But I think Wonder Woman, I would agree. Wonder Woman I would think is best. And I'm literally not even going to say the worst DC movie because there's oh, you know what? I will. Wonder Woman 2.
You're right. The first one was amazing. Yeah. And the second one was a complete shit show.
Yes.
But that's been the DC's problem. They've had that problem for a long time.
Yeah. For Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy is a close second for me, but I'm going to say Ragnarok.
Yeah, Ragnarok is pretty good.
Jeff,
pretty good.
Oh God, you had to go there. That's next week's show. Yeah, I would say
Green Lantern was the worst.
That was shit. There are too many bad DC movies to pick one.
But I don't know. A lot of the good Marvel X-Men were very early on.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a period there where they were just producing shit after shit after shit after shit.
Of the X-Men movies?
Yeah, the X-Men movies were gradually getting worse.
I think First Class was the best X-Men movie.
Yes.
But I think the best Marvel movie is Thor Ragnarok. The worst one, I would say...
You want to say Ant-Man.
No.
Really?
It's got to be Thor, maybe Thor 2 or 3.
Yeah, I would agree with Thor 2
actually
Thor 2
one
was
of
pretty
the Spider-Mans. Actually, probably the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man #2
Yeah, but I don't
or 3.
I don't view Spider-Man as Marvel yet at that point. Like, to me, at that point, Sony owns it, and Sony is just using it as a way to make money. So,
okay. Well,
it's
so
if Spider-Man's a tough one.
If we're talking specifically MCU, probably either Thor 2 or 3. Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Thor 2 was awful.
Yeah.
It was so strange. It was weird. It didn't.
Roger Corman version of Fantastic Four.
Oh, that was bad.
Oh my god, that's funny. Ang Lee Hulk fans. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Ragnarok was fun. It was entertaining.
It was probably
the music was amazing.
It was probably the truest homage to a comic book that there was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thor 3 was Ragnarok. That was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thor 2 was just a pit, a giant pit of weird.
Yeah,
sorry, I meant Thor 4. 2 or 4.
Yeah, 4 was
Love and Thunder. Yeah.
Oh, you didn't like Love and Thunder?
I don't think it was one of their worst, but it was not good.
I enjoyed it. I thought Love and Thunder was kind of weird. Weird enough that I enjoyed it.
It was not.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not used to seeing Russell Crowe with a punch, but it was interesting.
Oh, he was awesome as
Zeus. Yeah, Zeus. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
And Bale, Christian Bale. I mean, Christian Bale's good in anything he plays, but he was really good.
Well, unless you're the lighting guy and you get yelled at for 20 minutes, you might think differently.
Oh, now I got to pull up the Peter Griffin version of that. Damn it. No. Too late. Let's end on that. Let's see how quick I can find it. Someone find that. Someone find that for me.
Iron Man 3 was that was weird. Yeah, but I think Iron Man 1 will always be the best foundational. But I also find it interesting that they struggled to find the foundation for Hulk. It was weird how long it took them to finally get Hulk. Remember, your audio doesn't come through anymore. Remember, Brian, we've had this problem. We can't hear it.
Oh, sorry. How did I fix that last time?
Turn it up, maybe.
Oh yeah. Hold on. I know what's going on here.
Yeah, Brian definitely doesn't do tech. It's still very low.
Very low.
You're working a whole fortune for the square chair. You got any idea about, hey, it's distracting having somebody walking up behind Bryce in the middle of the saying, give me an answer. I don't get it. What don't you get it? We need another Terminator. I don't get it. I ate that last piece of pie. And how was it? It was great. I hope it was good because it's sake, man, you're amateur.
One of the best rants I've ever heard in a long time. Just
right.
I mean, I'm sure if you're that lighting guy, you don't appreciate it, but I mean, holy crap!
All right.
Could you imagine that you got a 10-minute tongue lashing from Christian Bale because you weren't paying attention to the set? And
he's the soft and gentle voice of Hal in Hal's Moving Castle.
I know, right? It's weird.
Oh yeah.
It's weird. People are weird.
You know, everybody has a bad day once in a while.
And now you're too loud, Bri. You're way up here.
Me?
Yeah. It probably tweaked your microphone somehow. Because I know you're on an Apple, so I know. There you go. Perfect.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, on that note, this was a really awesome conversation. I kind of figured this was gonna like go off the rails because you start arguing. Yeah, because you start arguing like favorite superheroes and villains and stuff, and everybody's got an opinion.
Actually, it was on topic. Technically.
Yeah, totally. No, I'm not. I didn't mean off the rails, like off topic. I meant just very heated discussion.
I will say.
That's why we're here, George.
I will say one thing that this topic brought to my very kind of forefront of my mind is in the last 5 years, introducing villains into D&D has been very much Critical Role's thing. They've done such an amazing job at introducing villainy into the universe, and building these narrative arcs around the Briarwoods, the Chroma Conclave, Vecna, the little sub-arc villains within Percy's backstory, the new Fae villain that we're getting in the news story, the Mighty Nine, the city is a villain, a sentient city is the villain. They really do a good job of developing villains, and I love that part. That's why I love this conversation we had about heroes and villains.
Well, and that brings it full circle, and that's why we're here.
Yep. All right, rollies.
Okay. Roll your dice.
I actually won. Oh, I'm gonna do it in chat again because I won last time.
You guys, thank you for contributing to this topic. That was awesome. That was. All right, let me get my.
I got a
If you don't have
13.
D20, you could actually ask Siri to roll a D20 for you.
I got a 13.
I got a 10, so I'm out.
I got a 7.
Woo! 2 in a row for me.
All right, hit it.
So, what do we love? We love the game, and in order to play a game, we need heroes and we need villains. And I think today, if anything, taught us that any game we play, whether it's superheroes, fantasy, sci-fi, modern, ancient, steampunk, that it's important to, curate the idea of being heroic, but giving some of that narrative back to the player so that they can choose the type of heroics that they feel like their character might be. But I think it's also important that as you develop a villain, you don't need to develop a tropey villain. We've got plenty of examples out there, very creative and interesting villains who may not even know that they're villainous. They may just think they're like Thanos and doing the universe a favor. So when you do your games, whether you create them, run them, or whatever you're doing with them, have fun with the heroes and make the villains fun.
Amen.
Well said.
Where can we find you, Bri?
You can find me, as always, at rpgandco.com. Instagram is a good place. You can always hit me up in the DM there, or linktree/rpgandco.com. You can go to my website, playrpgandco.com. Check out all my cool stuff to buy.
You come by that way too naturally, my friend.
Oh, yeah, man. One time I'll do a whole episode like this, man. Speaking of, we need topic for next week, man.
With it. Well, we'll come up with a topic for next week. I think actually Berrybot has a potential for us in the future, right?
Yeah.
Are we working on
tuned for that?
Okay.
All right, then. All right.
Barry, where can we find you?
Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Lawfully Chaotic. You guys were amazing. Chat, you were on fire.
Literally.
You can definitely catch me over here over at Berrybot on Instagram and anything on the interwebs. And you can catch me over on the TTRPG and the RPG&Co channels on Saturdays for the Graying Lands campaign from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time, where I play a druid Kalistar named Mayra. And Jason, where can we find you?
Over at the Twitch TTRPG Academy. You can find all my socials there. I love to baffle the Twitter space. I love to post our game outcomes on the Instagrams. And soon I'll be posting my Etsy store and some other activities that I got coming up. Hopefully we might even be adding a couple more shows. But Monday night, Pike's Promise. We have Saturday, Graying Lands with Sherry or with Berrybot. And then Sunday we have the Mad Mage and we have Fool's Errand. Plenty of stuff to watch. And if you're not watching, make sure you play a game because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. What's our sign off, Jason?
I don't know. I need help with that.
TPK. Tell a
TPK.
story. Tell stories.
Play a game.
Play a
Play
game
games.
and be kind. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.